What's up, middle-aged gamers, and welcome back to a special episode of After the Show. Well, not quite after the show, since we will be reviewing Adam's newly purchased PS5. So, Adam, do you want to give us a rundown of what you're going to cover today?
But of course, today is our hands-on review of the PS5. Unfortunately, we will not be showing it to you live because it is in the other room. However, on today's stream, after today's stream, we will be putting up our UI review on YouTube. So go ahead and check that out, as well as the highlights of the unboxing video for those of us with short attention spans, because the original was a little over 50 minutes, and some of us don't have that much time. So this new one, I believe, is under 12-ish or so. So yeah, check those out as well after the stream. So
during today's segment, we'll also be taking questions from the audience on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, or YouTube. I will also ask my own questions if we have any at that moment.
All right, so please stay tuned and don't change the channel. If you are thinking about getting a PS5, then this is no better place to be right now. So,
all right, Adam, take it away.
All right, so I'll start off with the story of how we got our PS5. So, as I mentioned in the unboxing, however, I don't know if everybody necessarily could hear me. I know the audio wasn't the best. Unfortunately, I was streaming from my phone there, so the quality is not quite as good as it could have been. I apologize for that. We are not yet professionals. But anyway, as I mentioned there, we actually have a 3-person team here. So Krian and I are the faces of middle-aged gaming. However, there is a third member of our group, Bella. She does a lot of our video editing. If you've ever seen kind of our short and condensed videos from the stream where it's just one section at a time, she's the one that usually cuts and edits those videos. So anyway, she had a friend who had a friend who knew a guy, or somewhere down that long chain of friend of a friend of a friend, somebody owned an electronics store up in Taipei. And so Bella asked if anybody knew where we could get a PS5, and down the chain, somebody was like, oh, you know what? I have a friend who owns this store, and I will check to see if they have any available. And it turns out that they did. And so, yeah, we got the PS5 through that, and it was actually quite amazing because it released on Friday the 19th, and on Saturday the 20th, I get a text from Krian saying, oh, hey, Bella found a PS5. So, that was exciting. And then a few minutes later, oh, it should be arriving this evening. And then a few minutes later, oh, it's on its way. Can you pick it up this afternoon? So, I mean, it was a really fast process of getting that thing down here. So we picked it up on Saturday, and, I opened the box just to make sure everything was fine. But then the official unveiling, I waited till the next day, Sunday, because I did have things to do on Saturday. And personally, from my perspective, I've learned that sometimes it's better to wait on things, because then it's that much more enjoyable when you can do them. So I let that anticipation rise, and it was a very exciting moment, and we have that all on video, or rather, I should say we have most of that on video because we did lose feed a couple times. So, but that is the story of how we got our PS5, and now it is sitting in a beautiful cage so that my cats cannot get at it because they are little monsters. So, all right. So we're going to start off with some of the differences between the PS4 and the PS5. Now, there aren't too many differences yet, because what's really going to make one console different from a different console is the games. And there are not that many games that are next-gen currently. Now, there's Dark Souls, which is, I believe, one of the only next-gen game, like purely next-gen games. I do not have Dark Souls, unfortunately. I've never played one of those kind of games, so I don't know if that would be a good idea for me to try it or not. But yeah, so I don't have that one. So what I've been playing on it is Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Final Fantasy 14. Now, Final Fantasy 14 is a PlayStation 4 version of the game. However, it did get some updates for PlayStation Pro. So I am basically playing Final Fantasy 14 with the PlayStation Pro updates. And there aren't too many differences graphically. It's mostly just allowing me to play in 60 frames per second. It is slightly noticeable, but it's not like amazingly noticeable in the terms of difference, because it is graphically basically the same game, and the graphics on the PS4 are actually not that bad. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, however, there is a noticeable difference. It's not a huge difference. It's not what we saw between, say, the PlayStation and the PlayStation 2, where it was a massive difference. It's not the PlayStation 2 to the PlayStation 3, where it was a massive difference. This is closer to what we saw between the PlayStation 3 and the PlayStation 4, where, maybe your foliage is a little fuller, or there's a little more grass on the ground as opposed to a slightly flatter surface. Um, in this case, we're not seeing more of that. It's more of the lighting. So, for instance, as I'm running around as Eivor, I'm holding my axe. You can see the glinting of the light off the axe, and it kind of has more of a shiny surface. So things look a little bit shinier. Leather, you can tell a little bit when it's wet. It's a little glossier, that sort of thing. So it's a small, I would say, almost a quality of life progression, and not so much like this huge innovative leap. Now, that being said, Assassin's Creed Valhalla is a cross-generational game, so it's not specifically designed to capitalize on the PS5. So it will be interesting to see. Well, the one I'm really looking forward to is Horizon Forbidden West, and I would say once that comes out, that's when I'm really going to be developing my opinion on what's graphically different between the previous gen and the next gen. So I might have to go back and play the original uh, Horizon Zero Dawn and then Forbidden West back to back just to see the upgrades there. So we're not seeing too much of a graphical difference. There are quite a few differences in the capabilities, however. For example, when I was streaming on the PS4, I was limited to 720p, so I could not stream it higher than 720. PS5 can stream at 1920, so it's significantly larger. You're getting a 4K resolution basically on the screen itself. So my TV, I have a 4K TV. I didn't notice the 4K versus the HD difference that much. Mostly what I'm noticing is these little graphical effects like the glossiness and whatnot. But the streams, if I go back and watch my own streams, I can see a huge difference in that. And the PS4 was also designed with streaming in mind. I mean, it was the first console to have a designated share button on the controller, and the PS5 just takes that and runs with it, and it's a lot more intuitive. It's a lot easier to do things with. For example, on the PS4, if I wanted to take a video clip, what I would have to do is hit the share button, which would open up the share menu, but it also reset the recorder, and then you'd have to unshare, do whatever you want to do, hit share again, and then you could save the video clip from between the two times you hit the share button. And that wasn't very intuitive. Now, if you go to video clip, you just click on it. It'll have a little timer at the top that tells you how long your recording is, and anytime you can stop it. So that's great. And yeah, and then broadcasting is obviously quite different. If you saw me broadcasting on the PS4, you would see there's the bar on the right hand side. It's got the text chat, it's got my picture and all that. And on the PS5, it eliminates that. So my video is now full screen, so you can see it in full screen. And I'm up in the upper right hand corner, which you can choose. You can actually choose where you want your camera to be. You can be, north, south, east, west. I'm trying to think because your east would be over here. So north, south, east, west, northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest. So you can actually pick anywhere but the center to put your camera. And also what you can do, which is really interesting, is actually you can adjust the size of your camera into 3 different sizes. So you could actually make your video really, really big, medium, or small. So I always use the smallest setting so viewers can get the biggest view of the screen. But if you wanted to, you could make yourself quite a bit bigger so it's easier for people to see. Also, voice chat now is directly on top of what you're playing, as opposed to having a bar on the side, so it does fade away after a bit. So that has thrown me off on the few times that I've talked to somebody where if I don't catch it immediately, it might be gone and I don't realize somebody said something. But there is a new feature that covers that, text to speech. So when somebody sends you a message on your text in the chat, it'll actually pop up with a little robot voice, so if, Korean says like, oh, stream looking good, it'll pop up, oh, stream looking good.
Cool.
And then you're like, oh, so you can actually hear it. It does sound very robotic, but it is there. However, the one feature that I would like for that they don't have is you can turn off the comments on the stream. So I can turn them off so that other people can't see them. However, I feel like I'll let people see what other people are commenting on it. However, you cannot turn off the audio for the stream. So I would, if I had a choice, I would set it up where I can hear the audio, because it does make it easier for me to catch what people are saying. Because I don't have to, if I'm in the middle of a battle or something and it pops up for 5 seconds and I'm not looking at it for 5 seconds, in those 5 seconds and it's gone. I don't know what they said because there's no record of it. I'd have to open up the Twitch app on my phone. So I do like having that audio there. But if it were up to me, I would make it that I can hear it, but not the audience can hear it. Because at times it can be jarring. The first time it popped up, I was actually in the middle of a conversation with a character, and I heard this second voice, and I'm like, what is that? What is going on with this weird robot voice? Is there a glitch or something? Is it like playing the audio of a character in the other room way too loud or something? But it turned out that that's what it was. And now that I know what it is, it's a little bit easier. But yeah, having those two voices going at the same time can be a bit jarring. Uh, but I wouldn't mind dealing with that myself, but I wouldn't want to put viewers into that situation. So that would be something that I would add. So yeah. But the big thing is the DualSense 5. That is by and far my favorite part of the PS5. Now, I have it in the other room. I could go and grab it. I should have probably grabbed one so I could show you, but unfortunately, I don't have it in my hands. But you can see it in the UI reveal. I do have a video showing you how it works. So basically, it's the haptic feedback is really cool. You get the triggers, all right, and everybody knows, they've heard about that. You pull the trigger and it feels like it kind of locks in and then pop, pop, pop. So it feels more like a gun trigger. I saw somebody doing a Call of Duty thing where the trigger kind of did this jump kind of thing, like what a real trigger would do. It kind of snap back and then snap forward again. So that's really, really cool. But what's also really cool is the rumble feature is really tight and specific. So the example that I have in the video is they do the controller demo, and at the very beginning, it kind of shows kind of the history of PlayStation. So you're seeing, a PlayStation flies by, and then a PS2, and then a PS3, and then a PSP, and then a PS4, and then a PS Vita. They're flying by, and as they fly by, you can feel the vibration on the individual sides of the controller. So it kind of feels like, if you're sitting in a car, or if you're standing on the road and a car drove past you on this side, you can kind of feel on your right hand side there's that kind of vibration or from the wind or whatever, and you can feel it on this side of the controller. So it kind of feels like, there's something, it feels like something's pulling specifically on this side, and that's really, really cool. And they also, my favorite part is there's a part, it shows on the screen, the controller pops open, they drop a bunch of little Astro robots inside, and then the idea is, you can rumble it and you can feel them. And the comparison I always give is to a rain stick. If you've ever held a rain stick, it's got all the little beans or the beads in it, and when you flip it, you can feel them all kind of tumbling down. And with this one, you're holding the controller, and if you flip it, it's rumbling, but it rumbles in a very light way at the top, and then it rumbles a little bit heavier, a little bit heavier, a little bit heavier, a little bit heavier. And it kind of does them in sequence, but at the same time, the lighter ones at the top, and then, they kind of start, and then these kind of start, and then these kind of start a little bit heavier, and then these stop. So it creates the illusion of something tumbling down through the controller in the same way that a rain stick, you could feel the beads falling through. And so it really physically feels like something is falling or tumbling through the controller, and then you flip it over and it'll go the other way. So combine that with 6-axis, you can really feel it. When I popped open the game, my wife just happened to be sitting behind me, and as soon as I had that, I was like, you need to touch this. I handed her the controller, and she's like, okay. And she's like, wow, that's really cool. She was more impressed with the fact that there's a speaker in the controller. She's like, oh, you can hear the little robots inside. And I was like, yeah, the PS4 can do that. That's no big deal. But but to her, that was the really cool thing. But for me, this rumble feature is really, really cool. And this especially excites me because Steam has DualSense 5 support now. And I don't think there are any games on Steam that capitalize quite on it yet. But there's the capability of games on Steam to have this haptic feedback support. And I really do feel that once PC makes use of this, because I know Xbox, it might be a little bit harder for them because They're already, if they wanted to introduce haptic feedback into their controllers, only people who had their elite controller or only people who got the newer controllers would have it. People who had the original controllers wouldn't have it. So I don't see Xbox necessarily adding haptic feedback support this gen. Maybe in the next gen, I think they probably would. But I think if PC adopts this, like on Steam, I do think haptic feedback will become an industry standard in the same way that a Rumble Pack has become an industry standard. Um, so I'm really, really excited about that because it is really cool and it adds a lot to the game. For example, if you were playing the game, we've played shooters, and if somebody shoots you on the side, the right hand side of the screen will light up to kind of show you that that's where the shot came from. You can now feel that in the controller that it comes from the right hand side. And then doing stuff like, for example, if you put sprint on say one of the triggers as opposed to on, like, normally sprint is on L3 or R3. If you put it on one of the triggers, you could hold down sprint and your character runs, but as they get tired, you could get resistance on the trigger that kind of pushes it back out. So your finger is actually having to fight it in the same way, since that your character has to kind of fight to keep up the sprint before they get tired. That said, because there is haptic feedback, there is naturally a little more resistance than what you had on previous controllers. So on some games, I did notice that my fingers are actually getting a little bit tired when I have to hold it down for an extended period of time. I think over time I'm going to get used to that because it's not like a lot of effort, but I think it is the kind of thing where if you're the kind of person who has, say, I know there are people who have like nerve damage in their hands, that might actually be kind of a downside for those sort of people. So I do think it would be nice if they were able to add, you know, if they could even bring back that down a little bit. Or I would hope that they could do something like, say, add DS4 support or something in the future, because it's a really, really cool feature. But obviously it's not going to be game breaking in most situations. And I know that if you were the kind of person that has, say, nerve damage in your hand, it's not very accessible for those kind of people. Uh, so yeah, and the one last thing that I really do want to talk about on my own before I start going into questions and answering them is remote play. Now, PS4 had remote play. You could play it on the Vita or you could play it on your PC. PS5 has remote play, and you can play it on your PC. You can play it. You cannot play it on your Vita, which is super disappointing that the PlayStation has abandoned the Vita, because that was a beautiful thing, and but like all beautiful things, it never lasted. Uh, but it has remote play on the PC. If you're gonna watch my UI review, that is recorded through remote play on the PC. So that's how I did that. It also has remote play on the PS4. So if you have a PS4, you can put your PS4 in a different room, hook it up to a different TV, and so say you have your main room. Say you're a parent, you're in the main room, you want to play some PS5, but little Timmy and little Tanya, they want to watch Paw Patrol. Sorry, no PS5 for you. Ha ha. Go to the other room where the PS4 is hooked up, stream the PS5 to the PS4, and you can play it on the PS4. Or you could play it on your PC if you wanted to. What is interesting is if you do play it on PC, all you have to do is hook up your DS5 with a USB cable, and you still get haptic feedback. I did not think that was going to be available, but haptic feedback is still available on remote play through PC. So you can hook up to the PC. And the other thing that's really cool and kind of strange is the PS4. You can stream your PS4 to your PS5. And I know some people might be like, well, why would I want to do that? PS5 is backwards compatible. I can just download my PS4 games on the PS5 and they'll run better, right? And if it's an optimized game, like, say, Ghost of Tsushima, which has a PS Plus, sorry, not PS Plus, which has a PlayStation Pro upgrade to it, yeah, it'll run a little bit better than a base PS4. But if you're playing, some older games like maybe Desperados 3 or something like that, which don't have optimization for PlayStation Pro, don't have optimization for PlayStation 5, you might get slightly faster load times, but I still think it's an advantage for streaming because what you can do is PlayStation 5 only has limited memory and it's kind of small. You can only save about 500 something gigabytes of data for games. So you can use, like, for instance, my PS4 has 4 terabytes on it because I upgraded the memory. So I have 4 terabytes. I have 3.5 terabytes of games on my PS4. There's no way I could fit all those on my PS5. So I can just use my PS4 as basically a backup drive, leave all my PS4 games on that, and then just stream them to the PS5. And then I don't have to take up memory on the PS5. So I think that that right there is a fairly good reason to have remote play on the PS5. So I'm very excited about this feature. It's pretty cool. I don't know how much I'm going to use it, but obviously I did use it to make the video. PS5, similar to the PS4, can only stream natively to YouTube or Twitch. So if I wanted to stream to Facebook, I can't do that natively on the PS5. I would have to use a capture card or something like that. But with remote play, I can just remote play it on my PC and I could just capture all that directly on my PC and then stream that to Facebook. So that would be an alternative thing. Now, the only thing is on the PS5, you're playing in 4K. Remote play is limited to 1080p, so you can't go higher than that. But, my monitor is, I think, 20, 22 inches, and my TV is 70 inches. So downscaling it, I don't really notice that big of a difference anyway. So
Okay. Are you ready for your first question?
I'm ready for my first question.
This is
Bring it
something we
on.
got this morning. A
Oh, somebody asked us a question. Oh, fantastic.
a guy, he commented, he was he was asking, he said he feels like the media hasn't reported along about the PS5 heating problem, and he said there's also artifacting and GPU issues and PS5 shutting down. In your experience so far, have you had any heating issues or artifacts in the games or GPU shutting down? For listeners who don't know, artifacts are sort of graphical glitches you see in a game sometimes. Do you want to any? Yeah.
Okay. Heating wise, if I put my hand, this is one thing that I noticed when I was installing things like the camera and whatnot. If the PlayStation was on, it does get warm, but it doesn't get that hot. And I specifically, because my PS4 would overheat to the point where it would, because it had kind of a touch sensor, it would turn itself on or turn itself off. So if I had turned it off, it would turn itself on later because it actually got too hot and it thought that I was physically touching the on button when in reality it was its own heat turning on the on button. Uh, so because of that, I specifically knew that when I had the PS5, I wanted to put it in a much better ventilated place, which is why it is in the cage because it can be out in the open, but the cats can't get to it. So I have noticed if I put my hand around it, it's slightly warm, but it's slightly warm. It's not that. I wouldn't say it's hot by any means. Now that said, that's my PS5. Other people might be having issues that I am not. For instance, if we all remember with I think it was the Xbox 360, the Red Ring of Death, right? Not everybody was having that issue. It was just some people were having that issue. So just because I don't have an issue doesn't mean it's not a thing. But I have not had any problems with heating. As far as graphical glitches with artifacts and stuff like that, I haven't had any of that. I haven't really had any glitches, with the exception of one. I did have one problem when I was installing the PS5. This was after my unboxing. I wanted to move my data over. I had heard that a lot of people, when they plugged the PS5 into the PS4, they were having an issue where it might brick one system because maybe during the process of transferring the PS4 or the PS5, one of them might go into sleep mode. And when one of them went into sleep mode, it could get into kind of a it could just brick the system because it was in mid process and it didn't know what to do and it just shut down. So some people were having that problem. So I heard people say when you're installing your saves, if you have PS Plus, put them on the cloud and download them from the cloud. Do not directly transfer them. So that's is what I did is I downloaded it from the cloud. Now, while my PS5 was downloading my saves from the cloud, it froze. and I tried using the controller to back out. I couldn't do it. I hit the power button, didn't do anything. I held down the power button for about 30 seconds, didn't do anything. It was just completely frozen. And eventually, my only option was to completely unplug the PS5 while it was on, shut it down that way, plug it back in. And after I did that, when I went to re-download my saves, it would give me an error, and it said I could not download my saves and I couldn't access my cloud. So in that case, I went back to the PS4 and I re-uploaded everything, and it still gave me the same error. And then finally, I was looking online, and somebody said, "Oh, I had the same error. If you get that error, shut down the PS4 completely. Just tell it to shut down. Don't put it into sleep mode. Tell it completely to shut down. Turn it back on, and then you should have access to your cloud saves again." So that's what I did, and that fixed it for me. The second time, everything downloaded perfectly, and I didn't have any trouble. So yeah, I did have that error, but that's actually the only error I've had so far. Yeah.
Okay, I've got some easier questions.
Okay.
The next one is someone asked, "Do you have to be a PlayStation 5 member to be a PlayStation to buy a PlayStation 5, or do you have to subscribe to PSN, I guess?"
No, in fact, that's actually something that a lot of people were complaining about. So to get a PS5, you just have to buy one. That's it. And you can play your PlayStation normally. You have access to the PlayStation Store and everything. You do have to create an account, obviously, if you want to log into the store, because all the things you buy are going to be attached to that account. So you do have to create an account. You don't need PS Plus to buy anything from the store. However, if you do have PS Plus, which is the monthly subscription, you do get access to free games every month. There is the PlayStation Instant Collection, which I do show in the UI video. You have about maybe 15 or so games, including Ratchet and Clank, God of War, Bloodborne. So you'll get quite a few games if you have PS Plus instant access, and that's actually something that's been in the news. Is people you can only get those on the PS5, even though that some of them are PS4 games. So what people were doing is online. They were saying, "Hey, what I'll do is you give me money. I'll log into your account on the PS5. I will unlock these games, and then you will have access to these games." So people were actually selling them that way, because the only way to get the instant collection is to have a PS5. Uh, so yeah, you can only access that. So yeah, it was kind of a weird thing. And if you do that, your account will be banned. So you will lose your account access if you do that. So don't do that. But no, you don't need to be part of PS Plus or anything like that. Now, I do know some people, when they were selling PS5s, obviously one of the biggest problems we've had is scalpers. So a lot of people were saying what they should have done is they should have allowed PS Plus members, if you have a PS Plus account, or at least a PS Plus account for a certain period of time, say a year, uh, allow those people to allow those people to pre-order first. Allow the first pre-orders to go to that group. That way, you know that loyal fans are getting it. Plus, you can know that it's only going to be linked one account or one PS5 to one account. So you can't have somebody ordering 250 PS5s. But they didn't do that. So, but no, you don't need PS Plus.
Okay. Next question. This may be a bit conspiratorial, but a few people on Twitter have suggested that the PlayStation is slowing down the PlayStation 4 or causing issues with the PlayStation 4 with this most recent update to push people to buy a PlayStation 5. Have you found any difference in the way your PlayStation 4 was operating before you switched to the PlayStation 5?
No, I didn't notice any differences. Now, like I said, I got my PS5 the day after it was released here in Taiwan. So I haven't really touched the PS4 since then. I don't know. Maybe there's an update that I need to. I'll have to start up my PS4 and see if there is an update available. And if not, then I haven't noticed it. I have not noticed any differences. If there is an update, I'd have to test around on the PS4 to see. But it wouldn't entirely surprise me. I don't necessarily think that's true, but we do know that this is a common practice in phones where they add bloat and they specifically try to make them less efficient to kind of force people to upgrade, every 2 years or so. So I personally don't subscribe to that theory, but at the same time, if that was the case, it wouldn't surprise me. However, I will say that given the shortage of PS5s and how hard they are to get right now, if PlayStation did that, that would be super, super shady because obviously a lot of people, even if they want to upgrade, can't. So I would say they probably aren't doing that just because, yeah, that would be terrible to be like, oh, you should upgrade to a PS5 immediately. I can't. Oh, well, ha! You know, that's just, yeah. So I don't think that's true, but that is a common model in tech. So
On to our next question. A guy was saying he's got, I don't know, remember what the game is, but he was wondering what is it possible if I own a game on a PlayStation 5 and my friend owns a game on a PlayStation 4, will they still be able to play together?
yes, PS5 and PS4 are they're compatible with each other, so you should be able to play with your PS4 friends. Now, that said, if you are playing the PS5 version of a game and they are playing the PS4 version of the game, I don't know. But if you install the PS4 version of the game on your PS5, you should still be able to play with them. So, for example, uh, my friends, I play Divinity with my friends. They're still on PS4. I'm on PS5. So I'll be able to play with them because Divinity, the version of Divinity I'm playing is the PS4 edition. There is no PS5 edition. So there is. And in fact, that was back when we had the controversy with the, what was it, the 8.1 or the 8.01 update on the PlayStation that was giving people group problems. The whole reason for that update was to allow groups to work between the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5. So that whole update was to prepare the PlayStation 4 to be able to communicate with the PS5. So, yeah. Now, if you're playing a PS5 version of a game, I don't know of any multiplayer games that currently have PS5 versions and PS4 versions because, say, I know Miles Morales has a version of both, Valhalla has a version of both, but none of those are multiplayer. In that sense, I don't know. But if you're playing the PS4 version, you should be compatible. And that brings up another issue that it was actually, I didn't know about this, but because I had played Valhalla and I had heard other people having this issue as well. I played Valhalla on the PS4. When I upgraded to the PS5, it had the free PS5 upgrade. So now I'm playing the PS5 version of Valhalla. My trophies do not carry over. If I was playing the PS4 version of Valhalla, then yes, my trophies would carry over. But if you play the PS4 version of a game and then you switch to a PS5 version of the game, they're actually considered two different games. So in theory, you could platinum two of them and get, twice as many trophies for the price as one. However, you would have to play through both games completely because if you play halfway through the first one and you get the first, these few trophies, and then you move over into the second one and you get, you would be getting those few trophies. So in some cases, like if you get a trophy for completing chapter 3 and you finish chapter 5 on PS4 and you switch to PS5, you're not going to get that complete chapter 3 trophy on the PS5. However, if there is something like kill 500 guys, you kill 500 guys on the PS4, well, now when you play on the PS5, it's going to reset that to 0. So now once you kill another 500 guys, you're going to get that same trophy on the PS5. Yeah. But it is worth noting that with cloud saves, your saves do carry over. So I did not have to restart my game. I could actually pick up the game where I left off on the PS4. And that actually brings up something else that I meant to mention. When I installed Valhalla on the PS5, you'll notice there's actually, if you go to download section, and I show this in the UI, there's two bars and side by side. The first bar is a playable bar, and the second bar is a fully installed bar. So this is similar to what we see in PC, where you can partially download a game and then it's playable, but it's not the full version. It's not optimized, doesn't have all the updates and whatever. So when and if you have the PlayStation app on your phone, it'll send you an update on your phone saying this game is now playable. And later on, this game is now fully installed. So for example, when I was on uh so for example, when I installed Valhalla, it told me it was playable. So I went into the game and it told me that I couldn't use my save, and I thought, "Oh no, something's corrupted and all that." And I uninstalled Valhalla and I reinstalled Valhalla, and I was like, "Oh, why is it not working?" It turns out the reason I couldn't play it was not because there was a problem with the game. It was because the game was in a playable state, but it was not fully updated. And on the PS4, my save state was for the fully updated version, so because the game was not fully updated, it couldn't access that save because it didn't have that update, so there would have been compatibility issues there. So keep that in mind when you're transferring over, that when you do install a game, there is a playable state and a fully installed state. And if your saves are not working after the playable state, just wait for it to fully install, and then you should have access to all your old saves on the cloud.
That's valuable. I'm sure someone would freak out if they lost their saves.
Yeah, I mean, I was a little bit getting ready to freak out, and I was like, like I'll start over if I have to, but I've already put 12 hours into this. I don't want to have to start all over, but if I have to do it. But then once because I walked away and I came back the next day, and then I was like, oh, that's why I was doing it. Okay, I see. So,
Uh, Another sort of hardware-related question. Z from Twitter asks, uh, he said that, is there a lower input delay with the DS5 than the DS4?
uh,
I'm not sure if you noticed that.
uh, I have not noticed it at all, to be honest. Now, as we've said before, I'm not the person to ask about frame rates in a game, right? Because I don't notice a huge difference. It's my old man brain kind of registering things. So I have not noticed a lag difference at all, but it's been very responsive for me. I felt everything's very, very super, super responsive. However, I'm also probably not the best person to ask, because one of the problems that I always had on the PS4 was that it does need direct line of sight to your controller to function
Okay.
properly, because it is Bluetooth. So if something gets in the way, it can interrupt it. I used to think, I'd be sitting there, I'd have the controller in my lap, and a cat would sit on my lap, and the game would start like controller lag and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, I didn't know this, but cats apparently interfere with things. I thought it was just like static on their fur, right, causing interference. But what it was is they were just physically sitting between the PS4 and the controller. And my wife always puts these boxes that they like to hide in. She always puts them in front of the TV and blocks the PS4. So I was always having issues with that. Once I realized that that was an issue, that was another reason why I moved my PS5 to a higher position out in the open, so that my DS5 will have a direct line of sight to the PS4, or sorry, to the PS5. So I haven't noticed any lag issues at all, but I don't know if it's because it's better or if it's just because my setup is better. So
Okay.
if I moved my PS4 there, I would have had better results than what I have now anyway. So yeah, I don't know if it's a PS5 thing or if it's just positioning.
Okay. Okay. I think that is it for questions. I'm just checking everything. And is there anything you want to add?
Not really. I mean, okay, so after this I'm gonna upload the highlights video of the unboxing. I'm sure probably not too many people will have too many questions there because it's basically just me taking it out of the box. However, I am also going to be putting up a little bit later, because I still need to make the thumbnail for it. I will be placing the UI review where I do go over the DualSense 5 a little bit. I go over how the PlayStation Store works. I show you, how downloading works. Um, so please feel free to add questions or ask me anything there in the comments of that video, and I will try to answer them as quickly as possible. There is one thing, actually, now that I mention it, in that video, I do a test to show you load times and to show you how much faster the PS5 loads compared to the PS4. Now, it does load faster, but it is not these near instant load times that we were told. Now, in my Ghost of Tsushima, I did a fast travel from one side of the map to the other, and it took about 3 seconds. I did a fast travel back, and that fast travel back was near instant. So you're still going to have, load times are not, set in stone where it's always going to be this. It's not always going to be 3 seconds. Sometimes it will be instant. Sometimes it will be 3 seconds. Sometimes it might even be longer. But there is one thing that I did notice, and I'm not quite sure why this is, but in the demo, when I loaded up Assassin's Creed Valhalla, it does the screen where it shows Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and then it does this kind of card page where it says like warning, and it's got all these warning things, and it tells you all these things. And when I do that in remote play, it'll bring up that card, and that card actually takes a long time. That's about 10, 15 seconds or 20 seconds of just that one card. So it seems like it actually loads really, really slowly. But it only does that in remote play. I'm not sure why. If I'm on the PS5, it never shows me that card.
Okay.
So I don't know if it loads slower on remote play or if there is something where it detects that you are not on the PS4 and it says, okay, you have to show this when you're doing this through remote play. I'm not sure why that is, because every time I've loaded it on the PS4, it's never shown me that card. And every time I use remote play, it always shows me that card. So I'm not sure what's going on there. But yeah, so it does seem that load times will be a little bit slower if you're using remote play versus if you're playing through the PS5 directly. But it is still quite fast.
Okay. I mean, let's end it off with one last question, sort of to sum it all up. Pandemics hit everywhere. Taiwan, we're lucky.
Yes.
If you already have a PS5 and maybe you're struggling a bit financially, do you really need to go out and buy a? If you already have a PS4, do you really need to go out and buy a PS5? Is it worth it? Do you think?
No, if I'm being entirely honest with you. Uh, because, like I said, the only game that is currently fully next gen is, I believe, the Demon Souls. It's Demon Souls, right? Not
Demon
Dark Souls.
Souls, yes.
The Demon Souls, yeah, the Demon Souls remake, I think, is the only game that is purely next gen. Every other game, you're going to be able to get it on the PS4. So, Miles Morales, you can pick it up on the PS4. Uh, Valhalla, you can pick up on PS4. Pretty much everything else you're going to be able to pick up on PS4. So you're not going to have access to these games that you don't have. You're not going to have access to games that you don't already have access to. And like I said, the load times are a little bit faster, but it is not near an instant. It's the difference between, say, for example, a test that I was kind of doing with myself was on Valhalla. I would equip a certain weapon, and in their load screens, you can kind of control your character. So I was kind of doing these. They have this kind of combo, and I was seeing how many combos I could pull off. And on the PS4, I was pulling off maybe 6 combos before it loaded. On the PS5, I was pulling off maybe 3 combos before it loaded. So it is a little bit faster, but if you don't mind load times, you're saving yourself, I don't know, 6 seconds maybe, maybe 10. Uh, but yeah, and it's a little bit prettier. Like I said, the metal light glinting off the metal as opposed to it just being a very beautiful shiny metal. So yeah, you don't need to upgrade right now. I would say wait until they're available, and once we start seeing, when we start seeing, like, I think it was Ghostwire or Horizon Forbidden West, or whenever, I would say later this year, when we start seeing true next gen games, that's when I would say this is pretty much going to be a must buy. Right now, you can wait. You're going to be fine.
Okay. Okay. And with that, I'd like to thank Adam for spending time and with his new PS5 and playing games.
Oh yeah, it was so hard. Yeah.
And giving us a really good take on this. This video will be up hopefully sooner. So if you didn't get to watch it live, I hope you enjoyed the recorded version. As always, feel free to contact us on Twitter at Gaming Aged, Facebook at Middle Age Gaming 2020, Instagram at Middle Age Gaming. Hope you enjoyed the show. If you want us to do more like this, please leave us a message or comment or thought. Please keep an eye out for the podcasts during the week, as well as other videos we have planned.
All right. And we are trying to improve our visibility of our content. So send us those thumbs up on YouTube videos and follow us on Facebook because these are really, really important because we really enjoy doing this and we really want to keep it up. So come on, guys, give us a reason to do it other than just for fun. So if you like what we do, because we
We do
enjoy it,
enjoy.
it's fun, but we would really love to make this a thing. So hopefully you're enjoying it too. So if you like what we do, or you know somebody else who might, go ahead, please forward this to them, and we would really love to build a great media platform for gamers like us, non-professional gamers who just want to do casual stuff, right? Yeah. So yeah.
Okay, very good. And that will be it for us. Then I will see you guys later.
See you later.